Extreme MAGA Republicans have launched an illegitimate impeachment inquiry that is a kangaroo court, fishing expedition, and conspiracy theater rolled into one. There is not a shred of evidence that President Joe Biden has engaged in wrongdoing. There is not a shred of evidence that President Joe Biden has committed an impeachable offense. There is not a shred of evidence that President Joe Biden has committed a crime. This is an illegitimate impeachment inquiry. Period.
Period.
Full stop.
Full stop.
Extreme MAGA Republicans.
We're gonna play this work of verbal diarrhea art again in a second. Is he doing the sign language for the... I'm not even saying that as a joke. What the hell is he doing with his hands? I know that I talk with my hands and I gesticulate. I like to think. Maybe it's just me and maybe I think too much of myself. I like to think that my hand gesticulations have something to do with the words that are coming out of my mouth and I'm not directing an orchestra in my mind. So setting aside that I cannot watch Hakeem Jeffries talk because I am so irritatingly distracted by the irrational, random, never-ending gesticulations with his hand that have nothing to do with what he's saying. Totally disconnected. We're going to watch it again and listen to the verbal diarrhea coming out of his mouth. The man can, without smiling, without laughing, I'll give him credit for that, can say this about the... I don't know that the impeachment is happening yet, the impeachment inquiry. He can say this about the impeachment inquiry news into Joe Biden without laughing, without saying, holy crap, that sounds exactly like what we just did with the January 6th committee for the last. That sounds like exactly like what we did, not once, but twice. Let's just watch this again one more time.
Extreme MAGA Republicans have...
Extreme MAGA Republicans. It's not a cult. It's not a cult, except they have terminology. They excommunicate you if you defy, what is the word I'm looking for? Not protocol, if you defy orders. That's not what I'm looking for, but whatever. It's not a cult, but they have rituals, they have terms, they tell you who you can read, who you can see, and if you deviate, you're out. Extreme MAGA Republicans. Say it again after me. Say it 3 times and Hillary Clinton becomes president. You wake up in the middle of the night like Candyman. Look in the mirror. Extreme MAGA Republicans. Extreme MAGA Republicans. Extreme MAGA Republicans. Hillary Clinton is president.
Extreme MAGA Republicans have launched an illegitimate impeachment inquiry that is a kangaroo court.
Kangaroo court.
Fishing expedition. Conspiracy theater.
And conspiracy theater. Rolled into one. Does this guy not remember what they did for 3 years? Fishing expedition. Conspiracy theater. Well, they would know a little bit something about that.
There is not a shred of evidence.
Not a shred of evidence. None. There's no talk about millions and millions of dollars being paid through Hunter Biden. There's no talk about Joe threatening to withhold aid from Ukraine unless they fire Poroshenko. And son of a bitch, would you know they did it? There's no evidence of Joe peddling his influence to get his kid hired to the board of Burisma, which would make Burisma sort of investigation proof, would lend a little bit of credibility to a corrupt Ukrainian energy company to have a Biden name on the board of directors with handsome remuneration and that magical 10% for the big guy. There's no evidence of that. If you think there's evidence of that, you're an idiot. Don't believe your lying eyes. Believe Hakeem Jeffries.
That President Joe Biden has engaged in wrongdoing.
What is that? What is that? What is that?
There is not a shred of evidence that President Joe Biden has committed an impeachable offense. There is not a shred of evidence that President Joe Biden has committed a crime.
Oh, okay. High crimes and misdemeanors. And all of a sudden, by the way, remember, when they were impeaching Trump, not once but twice, they were making the argument that the impeachment doesn't have to be a crime. Do you remember that whole debate? High crimes and, what is it called? High crimes and misdemeanors. It was felony or other high crimes. No, other high crimes, whatever. There was the whole argument in the first impeachment that it didn't even have to be a crime. Now all of a sudden, these double standard, hypocrite, lying buffoons are going back to the argument that it has to be a crime in order to be an impeachable offense. And by the way, bribery and extortion are crimes in any event.
This is an illegitimate.
Look at that. Let me just see that one is particularly impactful.
Illegitimate impeachment inquiry. Period. Full stop. Extreme MAGA.
I mean, it's mind-boggling, mind-blowing, irritating, insulting, condescending. They treat people like they are idiots. And my goodness, a lot of people, they're not idiots because I think idiot refers to the manner in which the brain operates. But a lot of people are wildly ill-informed, as is to be expected if you listen to someone like Hakeem Jeffries or any of these other lying propagandist blue checkmark hacks. You're going to be ignorant, you're going to be ill-informed, and some might say that you have to be an idiot to trust liars, but so be it. All right, everybody. Hate Gate is on the menu, but in more ways than one. Okay, before I keep going, good afternoon. Yeah, what time is it? That's 1 o'clock. Good afternoon, East Coast. Good morning, West Coast. Good night, Europe. Good night. We've got a show. First of all, I have. I thought I had Spike Cohen, who's a libertarian, ran as the VP for the party in 2020. I thought I had Spike Cohen coming on today, but because I'm an idiot, all I had confirmed today at 1 o'clock was our call to coordinate and not the actual show. I move fast. Spike Cohen, libertarian, VP, smart guy. I've been listening to a bunch of podcasts with him. He's coming on next Friday, 12 o'clock. What was I just about to say? Yeah, for this week, it's been a big week. I had Neil Oliver on yesterday, Dave Smith on Tuesday night, Tarek Johnson on Tuesday evening. Hate Gate. We're covering it today, but we're going to get into it tomorrow because Karima Saad, one of the two authors of the memorandum, it's an 86-page memo detailing this new Hate Gate debacle coming out of Canada. It makes the Canadian government, they're idiots. They're incompetent. They're corrupt. They're liars. They're scoundrels of the highest order. It makes them look like complete buffoons. I know better. They're beyond buffoons. They're liars. Karima Saad is coming on tomorrow at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock to go over the report and break it down, summarize it, synthesize it. And then Jeremy Mackenzie, one of, if not the biggest victim of Hate Gate, is going to come on afterwards and talk about the latest updates. Jeremy Mackenzie has been on the channel multiple times. I now feel thoroughly vindicated in my initial assessment of Jeremy as a human, in my subsequent impressions of Jeremy as a human, in my decision to participate in fundraising to help Jeremy get through the absolutely outrageous, insane political persecution the Canadian government had put him through with the help of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. Canadian Anti-Hate Network, oddly enough, is the hate. Canadian Anti-Hate Network is the hate, and the Anti-Defamation League in America is the defamation. So what do we have on for today? We're going to start with Trump on Megyn Kelly. We're going to talk about why I believe that Fauci, he should go to jail, but after a trial, a fair trial. And I don't want to presuppose the conclusions of any fair trial. I will not presuppose his guilt, but I thoroughly believe it's beyond guilt. Fauci belongs in jail. And a number of other people belong in jail. Theresa Tam, Chief Public Health Officer of Canada, wearing that dumbass mask on her face while she's giving a press conference, wearing a mask on her face when no one is around her while giving a press conference. You want to talk about conspiracy theater? Hakeem Jeffries, they are pushing this latest updated booster, and wait until you see the studies on which they are basing their medical advice. We're going to get, I'm not reading some of these chats. We're going to talk about that. I got like a whole flipping backdrop of stuff. But before we go on any further, let me just make sure that we are currently live on the Rumbles. We are Let me make sure that we are currently live on the locals. Are we good here? And for those of you who don't know, we've got our next locals chat winner. I hate the word winner because it's like it's sort of like it carries with it. I don't know, like the winner. It's such a luxury to sit down and have a discussion with Viva. So I don't like the term. But in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community, we have about 120,000 members. That is non-supporting. They get a ton of stuff, access to information without any financial support. But we have a bunch of supporters who allow us to continue doing, Robert Barnes and myself, what we're doing. One of the things we came up with in the community was doing like an interview, but with one of the supporters who decides they want to sit down and be investigated, have their childhoods thoroughly analyzed by me. And so what we do, we've been doing it now, it's the fourth time. Supporters, people who contribute to supporting the channel, answer in a comment, and then I pick a random number, pick one of the random comments, and then we have a bit of an interview. So we've got our next winner. It was Majestic Top Hat. Scheduling it, it's not happening today, but it's happening soon. I'll just say, look, the standard disclaimers. Do we have any super chats to look at? We do not have any yet, nor do we have any Rumble rants, and don't worry. Those super chats, those highlighted money comments, like tips, like dance for me, Viva type thing. It's a joke, but they are, YouTube takes 30% of that. Rumble takes 20% of their equivalent called Rumble Rants, but for the rest of the year, they're taking 0%. 2024, they're going to go back to their 20%. So if you want to support the channel doing that, thank you. Not an expectation, by no means, obviously not an obligation. And no one should ever feel like, oh God, I shouldn't have done that, because it's hard times for people, full stop, period. If you choose to do it, thank you, I appreciate it. Just know how YouTube takes some of it. Rumble is better. Best place to support, if you are so inclined to support the work that we do, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. $7 a month, $70 a year, discounted rate, and some people actually contribute more than that. But everybody needs a shirt. Viva Frei, live free. Everybody needs a coffee mug. It might be more expensive than what you can get at a dollar store with no branding, but if you wanted to get one of these wonderful shot glasses, I got 2 up there. I actually got 4. If you want a coffee mug, the best coffee mug ever, or the best shirt or shirts, you can go to vivafrei.com, the merch store. We do our best. It's not cheapish. It's not cheap clothing. It's like, you can get stuff at a dollar store and it'll work. But if you want to support the channel and have something cool, own a piece of history, you can do that. Okay. Winter is coming. Start promoting the hoodies. Do you get cold in winter? Do you sometimes get red ears as the temperature drops? A Viva Frei Wanted for President hoodie will keep your ears warm and snug. Okay, so we're starting with Trump. Trump was on Megyn Kelly. She did the interview. I haven't seen all of it, but I've seen enough of it. I like Megyn Kelly. Full disclosure. I gave Megyn Kelly a hard time once upon a time on the Twitterverse. Critique. You critique both the people you loathe and the people you like. On the one hand, to highlight the mistakes that the people you loathe make. And on the other hand, you do critique the people you like because you might actually want them to be better. And while I am about to be critical of Trump in his response to the question that he's going to get asked, I am critical of Trump, not to destroy and discredit him, but to sensitize him to the fact that the answer is unsatisfactory. It will be unsatisfactory to a great many people who might be getting increasingly angry at where we are today, due in part to an initiative that he commenced, that he was proud of, and that he reiterates being proud of. So Trump was on Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly did a good interview. She asked the question that I had asked Tucker Carlson to ask, not knowing that Tucker Carlson had already recorded his recording and it was never going to happen. But she asked the question, maybe not in as aggressive a manner as I would have, but she did. Now here, hold on one second. Megyn Kelly presses Trump. Okay. So here's the question. We're going to play through it. And we all know Trump is Trump. Trump will be Trump. And that doesn't mean, and we do know that, the campaign looks to see how answers are resonating. And what I'm suggesting is, the explanation is not one that is contrary to anything he's ever said. And it would not be like an anchorless ship being blown with the wind. It would be fleshing out what he's starting to mention it here. He's starting to get to it. He's not quite there yet. and it's going to need some refining because he is going to get grilled for it, and rightly so. My question to Tucker Carlson on Twitter, for those of you who didn't see it, my question to Trump would have been, you know that people in your administration lied to you. I think Milley lied about the number of soldiers left in Syria because who the hell wants a president that actually gets America out of foreign occupations, foreign wars? We now know that the trials for the Pfizer jibby jab were bunk would be an understatement. For those who aren't following, I was going to say Garth Brooks, but it's not. It's Brooke Jackson. Jeez Louise. Brooke Jackson's Key Tam whistleblower lawsuit. If the allegations are true, the trials were basically non-existent. Bunk would be like, you went through the stuff and you did the actions and you faked it. You faked it as in like you faked faking it. You went through the motions. If Brooke Jackson's allegations are true and correct, and at this point in time, I believe they are, but not just relying on Brooke Jackson. I've interviewed many people now, Maddie DeGarry's parents. Trump can now say, look, I didn't know how badly they lied, falsified data, ignored data. I'd say now that you know people in your administration have lied to you, you know how bunk these trials were, do you still stand by what you tout to be the success of the jab? And if you do, how so? But listen to the question that Megyn Kelly asks, and it's pretty much the same. Megyn Kelly, here, boom, shakalaka. Listen to this. Oh, no, I didn't add it to the screen yet. Share. Here we go. Listen.
Operation Warp Speed, though.
Yeah.
That was on the vaccines. They were rushed through. Operation Warp Speed, though.
Yeah.
That was on the vaccines. They were rushed through. They have helped, but also hurt a lot of people.
Bear in mind that Megyn Kelly just came out the other day and said that she suffered an immunological response from the jibby jab. Bear that in mind. So she might be coming from a place of hurt. She is coming from a place of hurt herself. I know the arguments, everybody. Trump never mandated it. No one forced Megyn Kelly to get it. And it was the subsequent administration and local governments, state governments that really put the screws to people. We know the argument. This is where Megyn Kelly's coming from.
And your White House actually supported mask mandates. So wouldn't you like a do-over on any of that?
That question is a lob. That's lobbing up the hard question. Wouldn't you like a do-over? Do you not regret relying on an administration that you knew was trying to sabotage you? Is maybe how I might have phrased it. But I've been accused of being unnecessarily aggressive at times. I'm not. I think people need to grow some thicker skin and quit being a bunch of babies. But whatever. Okay, Megyn Kelly's more diplomatic.
Look, when this came in, nobody knew what the hell it was. It sounded like an ancient, pandemic. You thought that was from 200 years ago or from 1917. We never thought you'd have a pandemic. Nobody had any idea.
See, there's going to be a very, very big problem with the response to this. They were holding pandemic games. I forget what the hell the conference was. They were holding pandemic games a year before. So some people are going to say, if that's what you thought, I question some judgment here. What is this? Fauci himself is the one who said the Trump administration is going to face a pandemic. So understand what he's saying. I understand what he's saying. This was unprecedented. No one knew what the hell was going on. But gotta refine the messaging. Refine it down just a little bit. But let's keep going. We got
Word that bad things were happening in China, right around the Wuhan clinic. And I was the one that said it was in the Wuhan clinic. Mm-hmm. And, I stuck with it, and it was absolutely.
Touting a success, that's fine. That's a salesman, that's good.
It came out of the Wuhan clinic. But you take a look at
who was funding the Wuhan Virology Institute. We now know that it was Fauci using third-party NGOs, Eco Alliance. We know now that it was the dude that he was fighting with Fauci, but he was also relying on Fauci. It was the dude in his administration that had actually indirectly financed the gain-of-function research into the pandemic that took President Trump out of office.
And what we did was, this was brand new. Nobody knew what the hell it was. There's dust. Somebody said there's dust coming in from China, and it's killing people in Italy, and it's killing people in France. And
I do remember the videos of people handing out masks, and it happened to be Chinese people handing out masks, and then people were making jokes as to whether or not there were a lot of conspiracy theories, some legit and some not legit, that came out in the period where the world went effing nuts and has yet to recover from its effing insanity.
it's going to kill people here. And by the way, I shut it down to China. That was a big move. I saved thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives by doing it. But honestly,
Do remember, by the way, they had shut the borders, and in Canada they were still allowing international flights to come in from China. And do remember at the time when Trump said end travel, cut the travel off, he was accused of being racist. Okay.
nobody, I don't blame a lot of people because nobody knew what it was. Now we do understand it somewhat. Nobody really understands it even now fully. But nobody knew what COVID was. And it wasn't even a name. I called it the China virus. I still do. I call it the China virus. It came out of China. You know, they call it COVID and COVID-19. As far as the vaccines
I call it the My Sharona Cyrus, but
concerned, you had the original COVID. And the vaccine had an impact on that. And there are some people, I will tell you, some friends.
there are many people who agree with what Trump is saying right now. And I'm not saying this to contradict Dr. Drew. Dr. Drew is a doctor, someone I respect, someone whose judgment I respect, who he does believe that it helps certain demographics and it did not help other demographics. And we're going to get into that when we go over to Rumble. So there are people who do believe this. And I'll show you the CDC to some extent has confirmed what Trump is saying right now. So I understand also the 4D chess that Trump might be playing right now, but I don't like it.
Friends of mine that are Democrat, I think they voted for me, but they're Democrat, very smart people, top people. They say, you know, I don't understand one thing. Why don't you talk more about the vaccine? It was one of the greatest things you've ever done. Now think of that.
Again, people, he's not saying it. He's saying some of his Democrat friends say that to him. So this is an interesting way of suggesting that people are giving him credit while not saying it himself, so that he, can also turn around and say, they say that I saved a lot of lives. I could take credit for the success, but not for the failure. Although the failure, in as much as it became mandated, required, coerced, etc., did indeed come from subsequent administrations and various states. But okay, moving on.
They say to me, and I say, I'm not going to talk about it one way or the other. First of all, no mandates. I don't want mandates. I never had mandates. Florida sort of had a mandate because they were giving the vaccine. They were demanding everybody take the vaccine. That's another thing. But no mandates, no anything. I didn't demand anybody take it. But I have people on the other side.
I don't like the diversion either. I don't like the comparison to Florida because it's good. That's a two-way street. That's not necessarily going to play always in Trump's favor. But okay, and it's also to me it looks like a juvenile. Well, I did something faster. Admittedly, a number of people made the right decisions, some sooner than later, and others are continuing to perpetuate the wrongs, as we're going to get into when we go over to Rumble.
Not my side, although probably there's some on my side too. They said, you saved 100 million people because I got it done in 9 months as opposed to 5 years to 12 years.
When they fact check him, because I haven't seen anything that confirms that number. When they fact check Trump, his defense is going to be, I didn't say it. I said that other people said it. But he's wrong on the number, I think, although I have to check globally, but he's not wrong in principle. And I'm going to show you the evidence to support what Trump is saying other people said to him about the success of the jibby jab. Yeah.
You're proud of it.
No, I'm not proud of it. I'm saying what Democrats think. Democrats.
I get it. I mean, and I'm not somebody who denies some of the good that the vaccines did. I lived through that too. But of course, a lot of people have been vaccine injured. And that's one of the questions. Those people are mad that they were rushed through and that they can't sue.
She looks mad.
Well, I never gave mandates, and people have to make up their own, make their own decision. As far as I'm concerned, now some places had mandates, very strong mandates. Largely Democrat governors and probably some Republicans, et cetera, et cetera. But there are Democrats that say, why aren't you talking about that? It's one of they really believe strongly.
Yeah, dude, there are some people that say that. If Trump were to speak strongly about the success of the jab, that would end his presidential run.
One said, and this is very smart people, they said, you saved 100 million people worldwide. In 1917, it could have been as much as 100 million. It ended the First World War because all the soldiers were dying of this horrible disease of 1917.
They're going to fact check him on that. I actually want to look into that to see what impact the Spanish flu had on ending World War I, but they're going to fact check him on that. It's an interesting thing that he's doing right now. He is touting the success without doing it himself, which would irritate his base, undoubtedly. Trying to court Democrat voters? I don't know. I don't think so. It's not like there's any Democrat voters out there who are going to vote for Trump, but okay.
It actually ended the First World War. The soldiers were dying. They was on the lines. They're fighting, and they're dying of this horrible disease. They said, you might have saved 100 million people, 50 million people. Why aren't you talking about it? I said, I'm not talking about it. But what I did do is I got something done for that specific thing. I also got Regeneron, and I got a lot of therapeutics done, which were great.
For that specific thing. Now, here is what the refined message has to be. To the extent that it's accurate, and I think that it is, but I would, I'm skeptical sometimes of even my own thoughts and conclusions. OWS, Operation Warp Speed, was intended to find an emergency use for a vaccine to treat the vulnerable. I wish I had pulled up the OWS statement. It was intended to find a vaccine for the vulnerable while exploring therapeutics for others. That was supposed to be the origin, I want to say raison d'être again. That was the mission statement of Operation Warp Speed. The fact that it was then turned into a one-size-fits-all, 6 months and up, as we're going to see coming out of Canada. The fact that it turned into that, the fact that the potential adverse events were underestimated, undercounted, not properly reported, weeded out of the trials, much to the concealment of Trump. The fact that it turned into something it was never supposed to be, I'm totally against that. We had an original mission. We succeeded in it. I did not know that people were lying to me. I didn't know that they were concealing harmful data. And we did the best we could under the circumstances. But now I promise to look into it. Now I promise to appoint, if I'm elected, RFK to the Vaccine Council. And I promise to look into it. And if Pfizer lied, well, then we're going to go after them. Fraudulent inducement, fraud vitiates consent. Any contract that we entered into with Pfizer to deliver us a product that worked, and they delivered us something that maybe they didn't know, they knew did not work, and conceal, I will look into that as president. That is what the message has to be, period.
Also got the robes and the leather and the rubber and all of the different things, the ventilators. Mm-hmm. We did a tremendous...
Ventilators have now been shown to have been quite counterproductive, so maybe not the best example.
This job, and it's never, they appreciated what I did with the economy. I got a lot of good marks on the economy. I got a lot of good marks on a lot of things. Rebuilding the military, getting rid of ISIS, the biggest tax cuts in history.
True.
Supreme Court.
I never got...
Megan's helping him there. Supreme Court, don't forget that.
I think the credit that I deserve on COVID.
It's not the best answer, and it's a messaging that's going to have to get refined as this campaign goes along. Credit for COVID. At this point, there are going to be very few people, left or right, who are ever going to give Trump credit or any government credit for how they responded to COVID. At this point, it's about identifying the weak spots and promising to make sure that it never happens again. So that's it. I am offering this critique. You all know the way I feel. This is the messaging that has to be refined to properly answer and to properly address people's legitimate concerns. Because at this point in time, we all know people who have been adversely impacted. We all know. I can tell you this. I've said it time and time again, and it's only getting more true as time goes on. I know by orders of 10, more people who have been seriously adversely affected from the solution than those who have been seriously affected from the problem. They lied to him, and we watched. Now point. Well, that's a fair point anyhow. Okay, this is what we're going to do now. come on over to Rumble. We got a lot more there. So that's it. The interview's there. The messaging has to be refined, and it will be refined. And to pull a Hakeem Jeffries, now we are going to go over to Rumble and do all sorts of fun stuff. All right, come on over to Rumble. We're going to end this on YouTube, and then we're going to go over to Locals afterwards. Oh, by the way, if you want to come watch it on Locals, where we are also currently live, that is vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Viva Frei for the best merch ever. Now we shall end on YouTube and bring out